member for Mico North.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. I'm rising at approximately midnight. This is a very special hour. I'm obliged to do so because I too wish to lend my support to the resolution before us, and to say that I do that with a great deal of excitement, hope, and anticipation, because the people of Mico North too hope and look forward to some significant rehabilitation under the work program, the road works program earmarked for the country. I need to say that because I recognize that the Prime Minister in his delivery did not go through every road or every community that would benefit. But I have the assurance of my colleague, the honorable member responsible for infrastructure, with the blessing of the Minister for Finance, that the residents of Mico North too will benefit from significant roadworks that will bring much needed relief to the residents in areas where we have not seen that kind of intervention for 20 and 30 years in some instances. So I wish to say, with great gratitude in my heart, that we, the people of Mico North, are excited that relief and upgrade will soon come. With respect to housing, Mr. Speaker, I recall during my learning phase while in opposition that one of the things that I often discussed with young people with whom I engaged was the issue of housing. And that is why I'm so pleased that the honorable member for Mico South and Minister for Finance has made available that financial facility so that we can increase the housing stock, but very importantly, that we provide affordable housing to many single people, especially single female professionals who appear on the surface to be disadvantaged because of all the fancy banking equations and ratios at work. And I want to, while applauding the effort of the government to appeal to the banking sector, the financial sector, to make a further provision and greater effort to accommodate responsible, progressive professionals who also aspire to own a home. I know that there are areas in Mico North that are earmarked to be developed within the next couple months, or certainly within the remaining 2.5 years of our first term. Thank you. And that I understand the necessity for so doing, because the village, like many other communities, has grown and appears to be bursting beyond its seams. We have people moving into Mico South, not that that is inherently problematic, but some people do want to stay closer to where the umbilical cord is buried, so to speak. And that is why I'm happy to note that the areas of Volet and Maho and moving towards Escap are areas earmarked for housing. And I really want to applaud that effort and pray that we can see that materialize in quick time. Mr. Speaker, I turn to education, and I do not want to cheat colleagues of coming to a near full understanding, at least, regarding some of the issues that were raised by members opposite, notwithstanding the time. And when we speak of the kind of injection that this administration and this government has made into the education sector with respect to rehabilitation of schools in particular, an amount of $10 million that I can say without any fear and with great confidence, we have never seen that kind of injection of money for the rehabilitation of schools in one shot. And I want to applaud that effort, not only because the school plants, like I like to refer to them as, or the schools, have deteriorated significantly over the last 4 decades. And the Honorable Prime Minister and member for Miku South did reference the fact that over 70% of our schools are more than 40 years old. And one can understand the wear and tear on the physical infrastructure of a school that has been around for at least 4 decades, with very serious implications. And I want to speak about electricals in particular. I stand corrected by my member responsible for infrastructure and energy, but those of us who do really subscribe to the letter of the law know that there is a requirement for electrical inspections ever so often. So for those plants that have, those schools that have been in existence for over 40 years, can you now imagine the kind of pressure that has come to bear on those schools with respect to electricals, now that we have computers, now that we have air conditioning units, now that we have canteens, we have school feeding programs. And one of the reasons we flagged electricals in school as a priority area is precisely because of health and safety reasons, but also because, and I will answer 2 questions in one, to say that while members opposite pretend that they do not understand our philosophical position regarding laptops in schools, and that we have insisted, and I continue to insist, and have said here and elsewhere, it is a position that I held long before I entered politics, that to equip students with the artifacts of technology does not amount to or help cure the digital divide or enhance their digital competency. That what you need to do simultaneously is to equip them with programs, with courses, to enhance their usability of the machine. And that is what we have done since coming in, that we have introduced courses that will enhance the digital competency of students. Because it is not simply navigating social media or navigating pictorial programs. We realize too that precisely because CXC is going via the e-testing route, that students must have some kind of problem-solving capacity as well with respect to the interface with the machine. So that we need to ensure that students are not disadvantaged in a testing environment because of the mode of testing. It appears that many people are not yet aware that CXC has started their pilot e-testing with respect to some of the CXC subjects, and that there are courses which already have gone 100% digital. For example, technical drawing, which in our day when you worked with your squares and your pencils and your compass, etc., now technical drawing requires, exactly, digital interface with a machine. And that is why When we speak of rehabilitation of schools, it is not simply about rooftops, new windows, flooring, etc., but the electricals form a significant component as a basis for the retrofitting and the conversion of classes into smart classrooms, which can benefit a larger school population versus equipping only certain forms with laptops in their hands, so to speak, without the accompanying digital competency so they can leverage the full utility of the machines. And I am and I must say how grateful I am to the Taiwanese embassy, the government and people of Taiwan for partnering with us in realizing that vision of this administration, that when we speak of the infusion of ICTs, the integration of ICTs in education, that we mean more than simply equipping them with a laptop. As laudable as that may be in and of itself, it is inadequate if the goal is to enhance the e-competency or digital competency of our students. In January, we will announce the detail and the content of the ICT in schools policy, which will dovetail beautifully with some of the rehabilitation work which will take place during the Christmas break as we retrofit and rehabilitate the technical drawing labs and convert them into smart classrooms. That policy, it will become evident to those who care to follow, will not be limited to secondary schools, nor will the rehabilitation of classrooms and conversion to smart classrooms be limited to secondary schools, but there is accommodation for primary schools as well, because inevitably the earlier we can intervene and expose our students to ICTs in education, then the better that is for us. I want also to touch on Sir Arthur Lewis Community College, and the question was asked whether Sir Arthur Lewis Community College is a beneficiary of that, and of course it is, and most naturally it is. It is our flagship tertiary institution, and there is no point, Mr. Speaker, in rehashing what we inherited. What I wish to say is that 2.5 years on, we've had to do certain things. In the first instance, we did have to relocate the students from Sir Arthur Lewis to the George Charles Secondary School and to merge the students or the George Charles Secondary School with John Odlum. And that was a temporary arrangement while we awaited the finalization of the equip loan. And even while doing so, Mr. Speaker, we have also and simultaneously undertaken a kind of curriculum audit of Sir Arthur Lewis to ascertain whether it is we need to phase out certain subjects and or introduce new ones, and to determine really whether students are receiving value for their money. So the focus is not limited to physical rehabilitation, because the pedagogic experience, you can well appreciate, is holistic. That yes, you need to focus on the physical plant, but you also need to focus on instruction, you need to focus on issues of health, safety, and security. You know that we have an emerging problem of what we call sick buildings in this country with mold and termites and air quality. So all of these things really are very important in the delivery of education to our students, and most naturally, these are being addressed, admittedly in partnership with other agencies as well, such as I did mention the CDB and the equip loan, the Global Partnership for Education. Cuba is assisting us with mathematics and the teaching of mathematics. USAID and the US Embassy have been great partners, along with the Commonwealth of Learning, with respect to introducing technology in schools and introducing robotics in schools. So I just want to lay that landscape to suggest to honorable members that the view is a holistic one, and this loan, which does reference the $10 million, will go a long way in addressing a significant variable in the broader education equation, and that is the issue of rehabilitation of schools. Mr. Speaker, I want to reference a situation in Margaret Hood, one of the sub-communities in my constituency, which you know that remains very vulnerable and susceptible to flooding. And I have had that conversation with the honorable member for Castries North, responsible for infrastructure, and to say that whereas historically we have undertaken some desilting work, that there needs to be a comprehensive intervention to resolve this problem once and for all. It can't be that every time there's a heavy rain that I had to be worried for the safety and well-being of the residents of Margaret Hood, and they have to move to higher ground or stay outside of the community because of the flooding. What has happened as well, therefore, the Margaret Hood Road is further compromised because of that persistent flooding, and I know that the honorable member will come to the rescue of the citizens, the residents of the people, the residents of Margaret Hood in Mico North. Because of the time, Mr. Speaker, allow me please to end on a happy note and to say that 'tis the season, and I am excited that yet again we have seen a very productive, progressive year, not only nationally but also with respect to enhancing the well-being of the residents of Mico North, and therefore I wish to take this opportunity to wish them a very merry, merry Christmas and all the best in 2019, and to thank them for their confidence in me and in this administration. And we will continue to do all within our power to stay true to the commitment articulated in the manifesto and the accompanying documents such as the 5 to Stay Alive, and that our concern, as you can tell in this resolution, is one that seeks to address the issues that affect the people of this country very, very directly, but will also and simultaneously enhance the infrastructural environment so that the economic arteries of this country can be reactivated and we can see a greater flow of activity, which I imagine and I'm confident will redound to the benefit of all St. Lucians, because I firmly believe that when the tide rises, indeed, all ships rise. On that note, therefore, I also wish honorable members the very best for the season, a Merry Christmas, and I wish you continued health and progress in 2019. Thank you.